All right, I think slowly everything is coming live, which is great. The little thing that's going to be weird here is depending on where you're listening. So we're on YouTube right now. I believe the Twitch stream is up. I'm trying to see. It's on there, but it's not showing up on my thing yet. So that's always fun. Uh-oh. Oh, great. I'm going to have to work on OBS. Beautiful. Da-da-da-da-da. I'm going to have to. Oh, where the hell is it? Damn it. Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. Copy. I have to delete this stream key. Boom. Boom. Let's see. Give me a couple seconds. We're right now I'm trying to update and make sure that my Twitch side of things is working. We might be somewhere. We might be somewhere on Twitch. We're getting there. All right, so we're showing up on Twitch, which is good. That's what I want to see. And we're on Facebook too. Look at that. We have everything up and running now. So this is great. I am going to now put up a little post because I'm sure somebody is going to say, hey, what the hell? Why are you live? But what we're going to do is we're going to try this. I have not done a Facebook Live in a long time with the podcast. So the attempt today is to do the podcast like I've been doing it via Twitch and YouTube, but to also try to do it via Facebook with my new lighting setup. I think this is going to work. I could do this. I'm sure someone's going to make the comment to me. Do you realize that what you're saying into the microphone is not coming through your Facebook stream? I understand that. Listen, we're doing one step at a time here. So at some point in time, I will get this all kind of interconnected, so it all comes through one stream, and it's not like I'm looking at the Facebook stream and I'm looking at my laptop for everybody else. But at some point in time, we're gonna get this all figured out, and I'm gonna figure out how I got to do this. But at least as far as I can tell, the lighting on the Twitch side of things looks halfway decent. The Facebook side of thing looks amazing. Just the cell phone video quality versus the crappy laptop quality is up there. So that's good. It's a good thing. So I know there's not a lot of people. I think there's somebody on Twitch, which is amazing. Usually my Twitch viewership is not very great. So it's great to have somebody on Twitch. The YouTube side of things, I don't believe there's anybody there. Nope. Nobody there. That's okay. It's fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our traditional Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. I am sorry for those of you that are popping on and you're like, why is he just rambling on shit? We're just trying to get everything set up right now. I think I have everything set. I have everything on Anchor set, so I'm ready to go, ready to do the episode. And I think we'll be set here in a few seconds. So I got a couple people. Hello out there. Not anybody I normally see in any of my streams, so that is what it is. But all right, let's see. And I do apologize. I know it looks like I'm looking away from the Facebook stream, but what it is I have my laptop is where I do all my podcasting through. I could use my cell phone to do the podcast, except in my opinion, the sound quality would be garbage. Doing it that way, so that's why I'm using it. Yeah, you're not. No one's gonna be in my video. It's not gonna happen. Silly people. What is up, everybody? This is Bio here, the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast, coming to you with our 24th episode here, season 2. Really excited. We're doing a live stream right now on YouTube, Twitch, and on Facebook. So we're back on Facebook. Really excited about that. I think it's going to be really cool that we're going to have all 3 areas to do content. I think it's going to be an amazing thing for the podcast going forward. I think it's really the direction we're trying to get, is to do more and more of the live streaming stuff and do it so that it's not just available in podcast form, but you can watch it also in video form. I think that's really kind of the goal for me is at least to do it in both avenues. So today's episode, we are going to talk about everything that happened down at the Texas Motor Speedway this past weekend. We had two races down there at Texas. We had the Xfinity cars on Saturday. We had I don't want to call it a surprise winner, but a non-playoff race winner, John Hunter Nemechek, picking up the victory on Saturday. And then Sunday's race, well, let's just say that Kyle Larson stunk up the show. What a surprise. Kyle Larson picks up his 8th win of the season and his 7th win in his last 19 Cup starts. It's actually pretty amazing that Larson was able to accomplish that. So a big win for Kyle Larson. Again, not a surprise win for John Hunter Nemechek, but another step in that direction back to getting into a Cup seat. I think down the road, that's his goal, is obviously to race in the Cup Series. But I think he wants to do it with the right people and the right equipment, and not trying to drive for a 30th place car like he did at Front Row Motorsports. So big win for John Hunter Nemechek. Again, a step in the right direction there as well. So normally this is our open segment. We talk about, different things that are going on and different things in the sport. And I think it was kind of interesting today that there was a couple things that I saw. The first thing I saw was Michael Annett went out and was telling people that he's retiring on his own terms. He wasn't asked to retire. He wasn't told, hey, this injury is really serious enough that you have to retire, which I commend him for that, because there was that thought process. I'm sure I wasn't the only person that thought it, but Michael Annett went out and told people point blank he is retiring on his own terms. He thought about this before the season started. He's now at that point where he thinks it's time. He was thinking about it before the season started, and obviously I think as the season's progressed, and obviously the injury, he says it didn't have an impact, but I think the injury might have been a reminder of maybe why he wanted to retire in the first place. You get to spend some time at home with your family. I know he lost his father earlier this year. I think those are all the things that are reasons why Michael Annett decided ultimately to retire. I think he wanted to spend time at home. I think he wanted to spend time away from the racetrack. And, listen, he's done this long enough in his career. He's accomplished a race win, at least at Daytona. He's not going to go down as a great driver. He's not going to go down as somebody that, is going to go in the Hall of Fame. He's going to be forgotten probably the week after he retires. But you look at Michael Annett's racing career. I mean, he went in and he won a race. There's a lot of guys that get in this sport that never, ever get that opportunity to win a race. I understand it was Daytona, but Michael Annett was always a decent plate racer. And that Junior Motorsports always has really good equipment at the NASCAR restrictor plate. So that team's going to be good there. So for Annett to go out and to get that race win, I think it was a big accomplishment for him. I think that really means a lot to his racing career and where he's been and where he's going to go in retirement. I think that racing's been a big part of his life. He started out with Bill Davis Racing. He drove for Richard Petty Motorsports at one time, and then he settled up on driving for Junior Motorsports in the Xfinity Series. I mean, he did get the Cup. He drove for H. Scott Motorsports up in the Cup Series and did a pretty good job at that. So I think overall we've seen a lot of a lot of things that Michael Annett has done in his career. Do I think he has, like I said, been the most successful at driving? No, but I think it's interesting to see that that news story kind of broke today that he was retiring on his own terms, and I think that that's commendable for anybody to say, hey, listen, I'm doing this. This was my call. I wanted to walk away, and I give him a lot of props for that. So good for him on that as well. All right. The other thing I guess we could talk about as well is that Brandon Jones, we're going to talk a little bit about this more in depth, but Brandon Jones is announced as returning to Joe Gibbs Racing. So he's going to come back. He's going to run a full-time season in the Xfinity Series for Joe Gibbs Racing. He's going to drive the number 19 Toyota Supra. I know earlier I put out as a Toyota Camry. It is a Supra. This is Xfinity Series. Supra, Camry, two totally different kind of cars. But it is going to be a Toyota Supra back in the Xfinity Series, and he will be full-time in 2022. The interesting tidbit here is that Menards is going to be the full-time sponsor on that car. Menards has been on the car as a partial season sponsor. They do I'd say about 10 to 12 races a season. They have stepped up and they're going to do the full 33 races with Brandon Jones next year. Now, I don't know if that means something, that there's a change coming with Menards. We know they've been involved with Penske the last few years. specifically Ryan Blaney. And we know they've spent some time with Harrison. I mean, not on Harrison Burton's car. Jumping ahead of myself here. We know they spent some time also on Matt DiBenedetto's car. I don't know with Harrison going over to the Wood Brothers team and Austin Cindric staying in Penske and not making that jump. I don't know if that's going to change something per se, but I would like to think that I don't see how Menards. I mean, I know John Menards has deep pockets. Okay, let's not kid ourselves. But I believe that this is going to be some kind of a change. There, we know that Harrison Burton has some sponsorship with Dext Imaging. They have a partnership already with Penske. It is my belief that deal with Blaney is essentially just going to get all pushed into Harrison Burton, and the 21 car will have some races with Motorcraft Quick Lane, and then they'll have some races with Dex Imaging, which is kind of the part of the puzzle I think that keeps the Wood Brothers afloat as a full-time operation. You see, if the Wood Brothers didn't have other companies to sponsor their cars or have this partnership with Penske, the Wood Brothers would be a part-time team. I think they've actually said that. So them having a driver like a Harrison Burton who has some sponsorship attached to him is almost necessary to keep the Wood Brothers as a full-time operation. And we know that, Penske's going to do what they can to keep that team together because that's essentially the fourth Penske car. I know people sometimes get on me for saying that, but it really is the fourth Penske car. If you look that those cars are prepared at Penske shop, that is by and large a Penske pit crew, by and large as Penske engineering, Penske crew chiefs, everything. The Wood Brothers might own the operation. They might, they do own a building in Mooresville, North Carolina, where they could put race cars. But basically, everything comes out of Team Penske's headquarters, and they're in North Carolina as well. So it's realistically the fourth Penske car, and that's why a lot of times I'll refer to the Wood Brothers as the fourth Penske car because that's really what it is. So that was a little bit some interesting news, like I said, with Brandon Jones. We'll talk more in depth about it during our news segment, but that was kind of interesting to find out today that he's going to be back with Gibbs, and we'll talk about in the news segment as well. We'll talk about how that kind of I think impacts sort of what they're going to do on the Xfinity side of things at Gibbs. I think there's going to be 3 cars over there. I know that there's no real definite answer, but I'd say there's going to be 3 Xfinity cars. I would expect the 18, the 19, and the 20 to continue. I don't think the 54 is going to be around next year. I think that that's just going to go kind of by the wayside. And in the news segment, I'll kind of talk a little bit about that as well. So what we're doing, we're going to take a quick break. We will talk about our friends at Circle B Diecast. So be sure to check out our friends at Circle B Diecast. Great supporters of this show. I really appreciate all their support. You can see all these wonderful diecasts behind me. A lot of them came from Circle B Diecast, so check them out, circlebdiecast.com. Use my promo code Crew Chiefs Corner. That's Crew Chiefs without an apostrophe in the S. It's Crew Chiefs Corner, all one word. Free shipping. It's huge. Free shipping on all U.S. orders, continental U.S. orders. Over $20, you get free shipping on circlebdiecast.com. They're actually going to be sponsoring 2 race cars this weekend, guys. Really big. They're going to be on Corey LaJoie's number 7 car, and they're also going to be on Justin Haley's number 77. We've had Justin on the show in the past, so really excited to see Justin Haley has Circle B Diecast on his race car on Sunday, and then you can get the Corey LaJoie Stroker Ace throwback. Actually, both cars are Stroker Ace throwback, so check out Circle B Diecast. You can order those diecast on there as well. And also you can order your race winning diecast for Kyle Larson. I believe they're doing a raw finish this time around, and that will be an autographed model. But then you can get the non-autographed standard, liquid color, color chrome, all those special finishes that you come to know and love. Get your Kyle Larson diecast, circlebdiecast.com. I don't think they put out the John Hunter car yet, but I'm sure at some point in time maybe that gets released. But you can definitely check out the Kyle Larson diecast on circlebdiecast.com. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a quick break. I'll keep rambling on about my friends at Circle B Diecast if you're going to be listening to the podcast. If you're listening to the live stream, you'll see what happens when we take breaks during the podcast. This is Crew Chiefs Corner Podcast. I'm Bobby Bailey. All right, so now what happens, this is kind of the behind the scenes part. This is the part that some of you on Facebook never get to see. Those of you who have ever done it on Twitch or on YouTube, you guys have seen this before at least. So Usually what I talk about is some like a cool die cast I got in, something like that. Basically, I'm just waiting for this to upload into Anchor, and then we go from there. So realistically, I haven't gotten a lot of new diecast in recently, just because with all the shipping issues they've been having, getting stuff out of China. Just overall, I mean, it's not even Circle B's fault or Lionel's fault at this point. It's really just the sheer fact that there's not a lot of stuff really coming in. Stuff is stuck at ports and all over the place. So um, I really don't have anything to really show you guys. But what I do want to show you is, um, I guess we'll show you a couple of the cars that are here behind me. Obviously, these are ones I've shown in the past if you've watched it, but this first one I'm going to show you guys is the High Point Ford. This is Chase Briscoe's car that he ran at. He's run basically most of this whole season. I'll kind of flip it over here as well onto the live stream so that the folks that are watching on Twitch can see this as well. So this is the Elite model. This is the 124th scale Elite. You can get this on firstclassdiecast.com. They're friends of Brent and LaDonna, so you can go check out firstclassdiecast.com. But I got this through my membership of RCCA. So that's kind of cool. Obviously, a lot of people see this car right here. This is let me make sure I'm pointing to the right one here. This is the Plan B sales. And that was not Circle B back then. It was Plan B sales. Was sponsoring Noah Gragson. That was their first ever win as a company, as a primary sponsor. So really cool car. And that's why I got the American flag in that one as well. That was actually the American flag I got when I was at Richmond. When Dale Jr. was driving. That was the 9/11 20th anniversary weekend. And Richmond handed out American flags there. All right, so this first segment is on. So let's get this inserted in here. Let's get some of this stuff moved around. If you guys have any questions or anything, either on Facebook, YouTube, or on Twitch, let me know. I'm just trying to finagle everything here on Anchor, which is always fun. We have a few people watching on Facebook. That's nice. Got somebody on Twitch. I don't got anybody on YouTube. I have some crazy feeling that the Twitch streamer might be me. I don't know. It is what it is. All right. Let me get this. Hello to all those that are coming in on Facebook. If you are just joining us, this is the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. I am Bobby Bailey. Trying right now to maneuver some stuff around on our podcasting platform here. Just trying to make sure we got everything in and good, and we will start talking about racing. All right, I think we're ready. Don't see any questions. I think everybody's good. Don't see anything on Twitch. Everybody's good on YouTube. All right, let's go. All right, guys, welcome back to the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. I'm Bobby Bailey. So obviously we got a lot to talk about Texas. What a crazy cup race. The Xfinity race, maybe not as crazy for those of you that watched it. Unfortunately, this past weekend was kind of really busy for me. I was kind of all over the place. Had a lot going on, but I did see the highlights. I did see John Hunter Nemechek pick up that win. Listen, I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, he's in the 54. You know, they're supposed to win. There's a lot of guys that have driven for Joe Gibbs Racing that have not gotten wins, especially the kid that's in that 18 car, Daniel Hemrick. So yeah, it's easy to say that the guy that's in the 54 is supposed to win those races, but if you look at the 18 car this year, how many wins does the 18 car have this year? Zero. So I think that sometimes it's easier said than done. John Hunter Nemechek has been in Cup. He's a guy that took a chance on himself. He reminds me a lot of what Ryan Preece did a few years back. And for those of you that are Ryan Preece fans, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Ryan Preece went and essentially decided that it was time to stop driving cars that were 15th to 20th place and let's go out and drive cars that can win races and compete for race wins. So Ryan Preece got a sponsorship deal put together that he could go and run a couple of races with Joe Gibbs Racing. And in those couple of races, he went out and won one of those 2 or 3 races he had and really impressed some sponsors over at Gibbs enough to bring him back for a second season on a part-time basis, a little bit more races this time around. They gave him another opportunity, went out and won another race. John Hunter Nemechek decided after running 20th to 30th in Cup for basically an entire season, he decided that he was gonna take the opportunity to go to Kyle Busch Motorsports because he knew that Kyle Busch Motorsports had the best trucks, they had the best equipment, they had the best pit crew guys on the racetrack, and they decided John Hunter Nemechek and his partners decided it was a good idea to go and run in the Truck Series. He's been dominating the Truck Series this year. If you haven't watched a truck race, he's the Kyle Larson right now of the Truck Series. He's got 5 wins this season. Clearly the odds-on favorite to win the championship. However, obviously he struggled a lot recently. He's not been that great on the truck side of things recently. But John Hunter Nemechek goes down and runs a couple of Xfinity races for Sam Hunt Racing. Then he goes out and gets a deal with Joe Gibbs Racing, go drive a couple more races, and this is the result. He was running great at Richmond and Sam Hunt's 26. I think he got a top 5 out of that deal, if I'm not mistaken. And then he goes and runs Texas and goes out and wins. He wins a race, and I think it proves to people, it proves to the right people that John Hunter Nemechek did exactly what you just said, Joshua. He made the smart risk assessment, and what he did was he realized that running 30th in Cup is not going to get him a big time sponsor. It's not going to attract a big name team owner. Very rarely do you see what happened with Alex Bowman happen with other drivers, and it gives other guys opportunities to drive for big time Cup teams. Now, for those of you that don't know, not John Hunter, Alex Bowman was driving for Tommy Baldwin Racing. He was driving some pretty crappy cars. He drove for BK Racing as well. So Alex Bowman drove for a lot of garbage equipment in the Cup Series just so he can get his name out there. His name got recognized, and Dale Jr. put him in an Xfinity car, and we all know kind of how that story pans out. We all know that Dale Jr. ended up putting him in his Cup car when he got hurt. He went to Rick and said, I think this is a kid that you got to put in this car, and that's how it's going to work. And Bowman did get a win in the Xfinity Series driving for Chip Ganassi Racing, driving that 42 car at Charlotte. And I think that helped the case as well. John Hunter Nemechek, I don't think if he's running 2 more years in that 38 car, like if he stayed this year in the 38 car, is John Hunter Nemechek at this point in time getting a phone call from, Roger Penske or some of these other teams that were looking for drivers to put him in a car? Like, I don't think Roger Penske's calling John Hunter Nemechek to try to put him in the 21 Wood Brothers car if John Hunter didn't do what he did this year. And I think what's going to eventually happen is we're seeing it a little bit. Toyota had a ton of drivers in development, and there's a lot of guys that they've let go. I mean, you look at Noah Gragson's kind of slipped out of their grasp. William Byron was in the TRD program at one point in time with Kyle Busch Motorsports. TRD is losing a lot of young drivers. Harrison Burton was somebody that maybe wasn't the prototypical TRD driver, but he's definitely somebody that they were trying to keep in the fold. It's just when they want to go Cup racing and they don't have an avenue to go Cup racing with, that's when that opens the door for these other manufacturers, Chevrolet and Ford, to come down and swoop in and pick them up. Now, obviously, if you're a big Jeff Burton fan, you know that Jeff drove many years at Roush Fenway Racing, and he was quite successful over there. So you know that there's a Burton tie with Ford. But Harrison was always tied to a Toyota. I mean, this goes back to Jeff's end of his career when he was aligned with Michael Waltrip Racing. So this kind of all kind of intertwines there. And I think what's really interesting to find out is that now you got Harrison driving the 21 car next season. And we'll see how that pans out. But how this gets back to John Hunter Nemechek is John Hunter needs, I think, to realize that it's don't race through the ranks. And we're seeing that. John Hunter, for the first time ever, is going to go back to the same organization next season. And when I mean same organization outside of his family's team. Okay, he drove for his dad's team for years and years and years. But now he's getting to go back to the same non-Nemco Motorsports operation that he was at the year before. He gets to do that now. So he's going to go back to Kyle Busch Motorsports next year in 2022. He's going to drive full time, and that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And Joshua just put this in the Facebook chat. He says not everybody needs to move up. It's guys need to be okay with being drivers that are, as he put it, icons of the Truck Series, icons of the Xfinity Series. What the problem is that you look at Matt Crafton, for example. Matt Crafton has made a name for himself as a Truck Series regular. Matt Crafton has driven in Xfinity. He has driven Cup cars. Maybe not as successful in the upper two levels of the series, but he's okay with being a Truck Series regular. Some of these kids have got to realize this too. If I can't get there, I'd rather win races in the Xfinity Series or in the Truck Series, compete for championships, because that's what's going to maybe get me that opportunity for Cup. And maybe I could get a big-time Cup ride. I do think he realizes now that it's not a sprint to the Cup Series. It's a marathon to get to the Cup Series. And sometimes, you just have to look at some of the guys that just understand that, it's not always about and just jump in the first ride you're given. Because sometimes that's where guys get messed up. But I think that's really one of the big things there. So John Hunter Nemechek goes out and gets a win. And I think one of the funniest things that happened, and I was going to mention this in the open segment, but it's okay. We're going to mention it now. So John Hunter gets a win, and I comment, I think on the NBC account on Facebook, they put a thing out about, John Hunter winning. And I said, oh, I guess that locks a 54 in for the Owners' Championship. And I get this one guy who is just railing about how that's not the rules. That's not how it works. The Owners' Championship, it's all this crap, right? So for those of you that don't know this, the Owners' Championship is separate from the Drivers' Championship, and the reason is because there is a lot of teams that sometimes run multiple different drivers, and you have guys that are hurt. Sometimes during the season, like Michael Annett, and you get like Josh Berry to replace him. There's different, points for that reason. Okay. So the guy that is running a full-time season, he could compete for a Drivers' Championship. What NASCAR did a couple years ago to preclude the Cup guys, prevent a Cup owner, I should say, from just running all their Cup guys in a car for an entire season and just going out and smoking an Xfinity, series regular that's competing for the Drivers' Championship for the Owners' Championship, kind of like what Penske was doing quite a bit in Gibbs. Those two teams in particular, they discount or discredit the Cup Series guy winning that race. So what happens is the win counts for both the driver and the owner, but it doesn't count towards guaranteeing the owner into the Owners' Championship. So you get the credit for the win, but you don't get, that doesn't lock you into the Owners' Championship. So like with the 54 car was locked in to the Owners' Championship because of Ty Gibbs' win or his multiple wins this season, right? Not because of Kyle Busch. So John Hunter Nemechek, while he is not eligible for the Drivers' Championship, if that 54 team wins, he's not a Cup driver, right? He's a full-time Truck Series driver that is running a partial Xfinity schedule. He's allowed to earn that team the opportunity to win that race, and that counts to get them into the next round, which is a championship 4 in the playoffs. So I just want to clarify that is the rule. This other person was arguing with me about how he said it's not fair. They don't have a full-time driver in the car. They shouldn't be able to compete for the owner's title. And I'm just sitting there and I'm saying to myself, okay, so Michael Annett got hurt. It's not fair. Is it fair that Junior Motorsports now doesn't get an opportunity to compete for the owner's title because the guy they replaced him with Josh Berry went out and won a race? Like, come on. I don't think that's really fair. So I don't really think that that's kind of how it is. I think, if it's good for one person, it's good for the other. So I think that, just because, Joe Gibbs is doing it a little bit different than what's going on with Junior Motorsports in the one car, two totally different scenarios. I don't think one's any different than the other, honestly. I think that if you're going to say that they don't have a full time driver, if that was what this guy's argument was, then it shouldn't count for anybody. It should be all for one or none for all. So, um, at least that's how I feel about that situation. So that was kind of interesting. But I think at the end of the day, I think the guy gave up the fight because I think he realized that he didn't even understand his own damn argument. But it was funny. So a big win for John Hunter Nemechek. Like I said, I think getting that was good. I think it's good for his career. I think it really moves the needle in the right direction for him as well. So Sunday, we had that big wreck lap 30. The big one, I mean, I don't know what these guys are doing anymore. I mean, I know there's a lot of fight throughout the field right now. I mean, we could sit here and have a 2-hour debate about 30th place and owner points right now. I know there's going to be a big thing about that, but I do believe we're going to see something's going to come about it at some point in time. Rick Ware right now is in kind of a tough spot. He's got his 51 car. You know, he's got his 51 car and he's got his, I think it's a 15. I think it's a 15 and the 51 are fighting for 30th in points right now in the Cup Series. Now, why is this important? Or is it the 30th? I don't know. They probably are lower than that. It's probably 35th or 36th. So let me get this straight and let me tell it to you straight so I'm not screwing this up. So the 51 has been in the bottom 3 charters the last 2 years. NASCAR rules dictate that if you spend a third season in the bottom 3, NASCAR gets the right to revoke that charter. So here's the thing. The 51, if you ever go look at an entry list, and I know I haven't posted one in a long time, so I apologize about that in advance. The 51 is not technically Rick Ware's charter. It is, but it isn't. Rick Ware co-owns that charter with Richard Petty. Now, I'm sure someone's going to say, well, wait a second. How does Richard Petty have 2 charters? Way back when NASCAR handed out the charters, this is like 4, 5, 6 years ago now, Richard Petty Motorsports had the 43 car and they had the 44 car. Okay, so the 44 is Brian Scott. The 43 was probably Almirola at the time. And when Brian Scott retired, the sponsorship went away because Brian Scott's grandfather was the guy that founded Albertsons. So that's where that money came from. Okay. So instead of Richard Petty selling off the charter, what Richard Petty Motorsports did was they made a little deal with the devil, aka Rick Ware. He's not really the devil. I'm just saying, they just made a deal. Okay. So they made a deal with Rick Ware and they said, listen, we're going to give you some cars. They were switching there at that point in time. They were also switching from Ford to Chevy. So they gave Rick some cars that they were not going to keep. And they basically made a deal that they were going to co-own this charter. So the 51 is Rick Ware's charter as long as Richard Petty doesn't call him up and say, listen, I have a sponsor. We're going to run a second car. Then it goes back to Richard Petty. That's how the deal is set. Okay. So apparently, fast forward, Rick Ware has an announcement last week, and he says that they're going to run Fords out of Ford Performance, and they're going to have this deal with Stewart-Haas Racing. So to make a very long story short, he is asked, how many cars are you going to race next year? Rick says, I'm going to run probably 2, maybe 3. And someone asked, well, what charters are you going to get rid of? And he says, are you going to be able to keep the 51 chart? Are you going to have the 51 charter? And he says, well, Richard's kind of looking for some sponsors and they've made a lot of headway over there. So I don't know about the 51's charter for next year. So then I'm starting to think, I'm like, did Richard Petty really find a sponsor to run the second car? Or is Richard Petty looking to dump the charter to make all this money? And he's going to go help out, like, let's say GMS Racing, he's going to sell him this charter. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but apparently there's been some chatter out in the in the garage area that apparently the 51 charter might be a charter that's available for sale. Um, but the problem becomes if you go into the end of the season and you're the bottom three again, NASCAR could turn around and just pluck that charter right out of their hands. So I think what's going to happen is, Rick has this deal with Stuart Haas. These cars are obsolete at the end of this season for the most part. I know there are going to be people that are going to go buy these cars for about 5 to 10 grand, rolling chassis, and will make these cars Xfinity cars because you can do it. And if you can tell me if I'm right or wrong here, I believe they can do the conversion for about 15 to 20 grand. So let's say you spend 15 grand on a rolling chassis, you spend another 15 converting it to the Xfinity car. For about 30 grand, you could have an X Cup car as a Xfinity car for 2022 and be very competitive in that series. I'm telling you, someone's gonna go out there and buy a ton of these cars. And I wouldn't be surprised if Rick isn't one of those guys that's out there running 6 Xfinity cars next year, because I don't know what the hell he's gonna do with the rest of them if they don't junk them all first. But basically, and Josh said I was roughly correct. Okay, so thank you for that. But what I was gonna say is, what's gonna happen. I believe what's gonna happen is Rick's gonna get some cars sent to him. I don't know if they're gonna be Stuart Haas cars per se, but he's gonna acquire some cars, and he's gonna basically the 51 won't be the bottom three. Okay, I'll put it to you that way. Now, what's really ironic about this, and Joshua will remember this from last year, Rick Ware, or was it last year or 2 years ago? Rick got in trouble for playing the system at Homestead because of some chatter they had on the radio about the 96 car, Daniel Suarez. So this was had to have been last year, because Suarez has only been with Trackhouse 1 year. So basically, the 96 was the best open car. And Rick was running an open car with oh God, was it the 27? It was one of those cars, one of his cars last year. I believe, they had the 27 open last year, if I'm not mistaken, because they didn't have the 15 charter last year. So I want to say the 27 was open and the 96 was open, and they somehow finagled the races at Phoenix. They dropped, I don't know, didn't technically start and park the cars, but I know they all mysteriously had mechanical issues. The other, Rick Ware cars, and I believe Tommy Baldwin's car, all mysteriously had mechanical issues, so that the 27 would get enough points to knock the 96 down, so that the 27 was the highest open car, and that got him, I forget how much money. Rick knows all this stuff. They played a system over there. Don't kid yourself. So Rick went over there and they were playing the system, and they got chewed out. They lost, I forget how many points, and Rick got slammed, I think, on a fine too, which was kind of ironic. So hopefully no funny business is going on with Rick Ware with that bottom three charter situation. But anyhow, I know the race wasn't the most enjoyable race. Kyle Larson goes out and gets a win. Big wreck, like I said early in the race. It affected a lot of the guys that were in the back of the field. William Byron had a okay car. You had some of these guys that were running decent. But realistically, you just look at some of the stuff that was going on Sunday, and you sit there and kind of wonder, like after the race, Kevin Harvick pops out, and Harvick is giving another Chase Elliott quote, and Chase didn't go over to him. At least I don't think during the race Chase and him got into it. So I don't know what the hell was going on with Harvick on that. But Larson goes and gets another big win, locks him into the championship 4, which I don't really think was really anything that we didn't expect. But I think it was pretty big that he got out there and got that win. So big win for Larson. Now they get 2 weeks to kind of rest up and take it easy. They don't have to worry about this weekend at Kansas. They don't have to worry about Martinsville, and they can just really just cruise on in. to the final. They don't have to worry about all the craziness. And Martinsville, we all know, is going to be a wreck fest anyhow. I think that's where Larson. I think that's really where Harvick and Chase are going to have their moment. I hate to say it, but I think they're going to have their little situation there at Martinsville. I think that's where it's going to be. But it's so funny because I saw a stat that was kind of interesting. Is Larson had 7 wins in his first 237 career starts in Cup, and in his last 19, he has 7 wins. Now, the one thing I'll say is there's a lot of years he was at Ganassi, and Ganassi stuff was not great. I think if you put Kyle Larson with Hendrick from the very beginning of his Cup career to now, I think his numbers would be way different. I really truly believe that. I think Rick's equipment is just that much better than Chip's. I've always said that Larson's been a talented race car driver. I think that his ability to take a car that is genuinely that when he was at Ganassi, that car was most weeks a 15th to 10th place car. Most races, 15th to 10th or 10th to 15th, however you want to look at it. That car with Larson in it could compete. They could win races. They could run top fives. He's just that damn good. And I think you see the same thing right now with Kevin Harvick, right? Kevin Harvick right now is by far and away the best at Stewart-Haas. Harvick is going to win a race this year, I think. I think Harvick's going to get one. I don't know if it's not going to be here, but I think, Martinsville, if he plays his chips right, he could be a factor there. And Phoenix is another place where Harvick's run well at Phoenix over the years. I know he hasn't been as great since the repave, but Harvick's got nothing to lose here. Where all these championship guys got a shit ton to lose if they don't run, at Phoenix. So I think Harvick's got an outside shot there at Phoenix. He would be the guy that I would say has the best shot out of the non-playoff drivers to get a win at Phoenix. But I think this weekend at Kansas, it's going to be a playoff guy that's going to win that race. I mean, I would say, you can look at Blaney, you can look at a lot of different people. But I think at the end of the day, Larson's in. I think Hamlin's going to get in still. I mean, those were my top 2. And then it was kind of a pick 'em. I kind of said Ryan Blaney, I think, has got a real shot at this deal. I know Logano took a big dive. I don't think Logano is really my other guy. I just don't know. I just don't know who else you can really put in there. I mean, Kyle Busch had a tough race at Texas. He's had some up and down moments. I just don't know about Kyle Busch. He's just been too up and down, up and down. Harvick, I think he's going to mess with Chase, so I wouldn't put Chase in there. Brad Keselowski could be sneaky. He's done well at Kansas before in the past. He's won at Martinsville a few times, so I would say Brad might be my other driver. I mean, I think it's going to be Penske, and I think it's going to be Hamlin, and I think it's going to be Larson. Obviously, I think those are your championship 4. I think it's going to be Brad. I think Brad, Ryan, probably Denny and obviously Kyle Larson competing for the championship. And I think that's the 4 you're going to have. So we'll see how that all pans out. But it's going to be a wild one. And I think this weekend at Kansas is going to be a lot of mixing up because don't forget, I mean, this is the final mile and a half that we're going to have this entire season. The last time these cars are going to be on the track, the last time that we're going to have this stupid 550 horsepower package. Thank God. So I think NASCAR's got a lot of work to do this offseason, obviously, with the next gen cars, but hopefully this is the last time we see a stupid 550 package. I think it's terrible. And we'll see what happens next year. But yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break here on the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. On the other side, we're going to discuss some more 2022 news. We'll talk about, like I said earlier, we'll talk about Brandon Jones. We'll also see how this kind of lines up the Gibbs Xfinity program, sort of what I see happening over there. And we'll talk about some other news and tidbits as well. This is the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. I'm Bobby Bailey. All right, guys. So now, as that all uploads, we shall see how long that's gonna take. Hopefully not too long. So don't forget, you can check out the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. So it's on Apple, um, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, which I already said, app, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Spotify, Stitcher, Breakers, Podcast Addict, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Amazon Music, Audible, all those different platforms. You can go catch the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast on any of those platforms, and you can also listen to us on our live streams. Obviously, we have YouTube, so you just go on youtube.com/ and just check out Crew Chiefs Corner. You can find us on there. You can also watch us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Giants, like the football team, 02122, and that's how you can catch us on Twitch. And then obviously, if you're on Facebook, facebook.com/the Crew Chief will get you to our Facebook page. So, all right, guys, we're just trying to get this all in its right spot. And then we will do our final segment here. And then we'll take it from there. All right, everybody, this is Bobby here back on the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. So we're going to talk about news and notes and maybe some grumblings and some other rambling things. I don't know. We'll see what we get into. So obviously the breaking news at the top of the show that we talked about was Brandon Jones is going to be back with Joe Gibbs Racing next season. He's going to be driving their number 19 Toyota Supra. He's going to have Menards as a season-long sponsor. So big news there as well for Brandon Jones. And realistically, I've been asked the question multiple times by people. What do you see out of Joe Gibbs Racing for 2022, especially their Xfinity lineup? So we all know that Daniel Hemrick is going to be going over to Kaulig. We know that Harrison Burton's going to go cup racing with the Wood brothers. So that leaves really a lot of open seats over there. Currently, they have the 18, the 19, the 20, and the 54. So the 18 is going to be vacated by Daniel Hemrick. I realistically see the 18 being where they put Ty Gibbs next season full time. 18 has been his number. It was his number in ARCA. Xfinity, the 18 wasn't available. They put Daniel Hemrick in that car. I know they put him in the 54 because that was the next number that they've run in the past that they had available to them. So that's why they brought the 54 out. I think what's going to happen is the 54 is going to go back into hiding. I believe the 18 is going to be the car that Ty Gibbs will be in next year, and I think that 18 team will be really good as well. So then we know the 19 is going to be back. We know that Brandon Jones is going to be back in that car. We know that Menards is going to be his full-time sponsor on that car. So that's great news for Brandon. The other thing that we're going to see, I think, next year is the 20 car is going to become kind of like what the 54 was. I don't see Gibbs getting rid of the 20 just because that number has been around their Xfinity program for a very long time. I don't see the 20 going away in favor of the 54 per se. I think what they're going to do is they're going to keep the 20, and the 20 will be the car that they're going to, throw Kyle Busch in. That'll be the car they'll throw Denny Hamlin in. That'll be the car that they throw, um, other drivers in. Probably Truex will be in that car for a race or two. I think the 20 is going to be there, multiple different drivers. I think we're going to find out a young driver that they're going to pair with these all-star drivers. I do think that they run the 20 car full time, but we're going to find out whether Chandler Smith gets some races in that car, whether that's Corey Heim maybe, who gets some opportunities in that 20 car. I think is going to be dictated a little bit by Toyota as well, because I think they're going to be supporting that effort as well. But I definitely think that's the race that Denny Hamlin goes out and runs his one race, will be in the 20 car, which is a number Hamlin drove in the past in the Xfinity series as well. I don't think Kyle's driven the 20 that often in the Xfinity car, but I know he's supposedly retired, but we'll see what happens there. But I think if Kyle does run a race or two next year in the Xfinity series for whatever reason, that would probably be the car he would race. But we know Hamlin's going to drive at least one race in that car, and I would imagine we're going to see some other faces in that 20 car as well. The other thing I've been asked quite a bit is, what do I see happening next year? Do I see a lot of shakeups happening in the Xfinity series? And the answer is yes. I think this offseason is there's going to be some moves. So we already know that Sheldon Creed's going to RCR. He's going to drive the 2 car. That was also announced this past week that Whelen Engineering is going to be the primary sponsor on that car for 2022, which I think is big. I think it's great that they have a sponsor already that's interested in sponsoring Sheldon and putting that race car out on the racetrack each and every week. So that's big news. We have heard some grumblings that there is a second car that's going to happen at RCR, and it's going to be a name we're very familiar with. So I don't know how familiar of a name this is. Is this somebody that's been in racing for a while? Maybe has been out of racing for a couple of years. I'm not sure, but that was kind of the tease that we got from the folks at Door Bumper Clear a couple weeks back, that there is a familiar name that people are going to be really happy is back in racing. He has found some kind of sponsorship and is going to be driving the second car at Richard Childress Racing, whether that's the 21. I don't know what that means. Probably the 21, but we'll see what officially gets announced here. But that would be big. I think the other thing we're going to find out is what's going to happen with Kaulig, how many cars they're going to field. We know for sure Daniel Hemric's going to be in one of their cars. I believe it was announced he's in the 11, if I'm not mistaken. We know Jeb Burton's not back in the 10 car. Listen, I think Kaulig is going to run the 10, the 11. I don't know about the 16. The 16 is the one car I'm not sure if they're really sold on bringing back. But if they're going to have 16 in Cup, what they might do is they might keep the 10 and they might do the 11 and the 16 and can the 10, because the 10 was kind of like, they just picked it because it was the next number down the line. And then they got 16 because Roush gave up the 16 in Xfinity. And they have it. So I don't know how that's going to pan out as far as that goes, but I do see Kaulig keeping at least 2 cars in Xfinity. I don't know about the third one. I think the third one's kind of what's going to go. The other thing is that I saw something last night. I saw a picture on Ryan Sieg's racing page that they had a picture of Kyle Sieg in a CMR roofing shirt, and it said all excited for next year. So I don't know. Listen, I don't have any insider information, but of what I can gather from the photo, I think Kyle Sieg's going to be in Xfinity next year. That's going to be kind of like my guesstimation of it. I'm wondering if they're putting CMR with Kyle, and then that 8-game drink that has been on Ryan's car multiple times this year. I'm not sure if maybe that's the sponsor for Ryan next year, or they're going to use that and then they're going to pair some races with CMR. I don't know exactly how it's all going to pan out, but it sounds like Ryan Sieg Racing could be owning 2 cars next year. It sounds like, RSS Racing, it's not Ryan Sieg's team, but it sounds like they're going to go to 2 cars next year with Kyle and Ryan driving the 2 cars. I'm imagining that the second car number is going to be, 38, could be 93. I don't know exactly, but it's going to be a number I think RSS has run in the past. I don't see them just going out and getting a random number for Kyle. I think Kyle's going to either have the 38 or he's going to have the 93. I think those are going to be one of their 2 choices. I know the 28 that he's been running in ARCA was sort of that was the number that was available. They couldn't get certain other numbers, so that was the number that was available to them to get. So we'll see how if that's something that they could get. I don't think they're going to do that. I think it's either going to be 38 or 93. That's just a guess on my part. But they're going to have 2 cars, which means another Ford in the Xfinity series, which is a good thing. So it sounds like Ryan's back with Ford. Sounds like Kyle's going to have a Ford. So it sounds like we're going to have at least 3 Ford cars next year. We could have another as well. Just depends on how those things turn out. Penske to me is going to be back. I don't see Penske shutting down their Xfinity ride. I do think it's going to kind of go multiple drivers. I think Austin Cindric's going to be back driving some races. I think Harrison Burton's going to be in some races in that car. And then I do see Joey Logano possibly and Ryan Blaney going in and splitting some time. I do also think that they're going to get another driver to make that a full-time entry. Who that is, I'm not really sure, but I don't see Penske just up and getting out of Xfinity in 2022. Same thing with Stewart-Haas. I think Stewart-Haas is going to keep going, whether it's Riley Herbst or whether they go out and attract another driver. I'm just not sure, but I just don't see that happening in 2022. I think at this point in time, these teams are so invested in it. There's less and less places for some of these teams to go with their crew guys. I think they sort of have to keep some of these Xfinity programs around, and we'll see. I mean, Brad Keselowski's talked about possibly bringing Xfinity back for Roush. I think if they do, obviously it's going to be one car. I think the 60 kind of comes back, and I think that Brad would drive it some races, and I'd say Buescher would be a good option as well. And then they try to maybe go out and attract a young driver. I don't. Again, it's going to be interesting how some of these changes are going to go. Or does Roush try to go out and get somebody that's got sponsorship, like a Riley Herbst, and throw him in the 60 car and try to get back involved that way? I'm not sure. But again, there's going to be so many of these Cup cars that you can take and convert into an Xfinity car laying around that I think we're going to see some new Xfinity cars. I don't want to say that there's a definite number of people that are going to get involved, but I do think that these Cup cars are going to be floating around, and there will be some new teams. I mean, we already know that Tommy Joe Martin's team is going to kind of reform. It's going to be Alpha Prime Racing. We know that Emmett Smith's getting involved with Jesse Iwuji in a team. So we know that's going to be a thing. So that's going to be another car that's getting added in. I don't know. I mean, I know we're going to lose a competitive car out of Gibbs. It sounds like we're going to lose a competitive car out of Kaulig. So there's 2 cars that you lose, but you possibly gain a car. So we'll see how the car counts go. But I don't really see a major – I don't see like all of a sudden we're going to have 50 cars showing up to these Xfinity races. I think we could see 40 to 42 maybe at best for some of these races. And I think a lot of it depends on qualifying and practice because otherwise I don't know why you do it. But yeah, that's going to be the interesting thing. So a lot of crazy things going on. Still a lot to go on with the Xfinity side of things. I do think the Cup side of the rumor mill is pretty much done. I don't really foresee much else happening. Obviously, we still got to find out what the second car number for Kaulig is going to be. We got to find out who their exact driver lineup is going to be. We know that car is going to be full time. We just don't know, besides AJ Allmendinger, who else is going to be in that car. Possibly Kaz Grala. We're going to find out for sure what's going to happen with that 00 charter with Spire. Possibly of purchasing it. Maybe it's not gone. Maybe Starcom's not leaving. We'll find out the clarity on that. But realistically, there's a lot of just little things that we're going to find out exactly what happens. The other thing that I mean, it's a thing, but I don't know how big of a thing it's really going to be. Is it sounds like Denny Hamlin is once again saying that he doesn't need a charter. He says that it really does mess him up financially, but there's nothing in this sport that doesn't mess him up financially anyhow. So I understand where Denny's coming from. I think he's pretty spot on about it. Nothing in this sport is cheap, but I think at the end of the day, Denny and Michael Jordan put a lot of money into this deal with when they launched this team, and I think that they're trying to make it a 4-car powerhouse as fast as they can. And they lose a little money here, they lose a little money here. I think eventually they will get that second charter, and I think eventually they will continue to expand their program and make it better. So At the end of the day, that's what they're here for, and Kurt Busch is going to make races anyhow. That team's too good not to make all those races, and their existing team. It's not like this is a brand new team with a whole bunch of people have never worked together. This is an existing program. Everybody's going to be on the same page with this new car. So I think they'll be fine. I think they're too good of an organization to struggle mightily out of the gate, even with a new car that supposedly makes the playing field a lot easier. So, or a lot more level. So we'll see. So with that, that is all I have here on this Wednesday edition of the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, especially those of you that listened in on our live streams, whether it was on Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube. So thanks so much for tuning in. You can catch us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, and we'll catch you next time here on the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. I'm Bobby Bailey.